Distinguished colleagues, if we're following our list, I was expecting Professor Ali Pate, but I think we have Dr. Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Am I right? So we will take the nominee that the senior special assistant to the president brings into the chambers. But next time, let's try and follow the list as stated in our other paper. But nevertheless, I welcome Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria from Kwara State. Oh, I know why now. He is accompanied by the chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum and governor of Kwara State. I think it's in chambers. You're welcome. And it's also accompanied by a legal luminary and one of Nigeria's best, Chief Wale Olanipegun, chairman of this, chairman of that, body of benchers and all that. We are delighted to have you in the Senate. We have Madam Yusuf Ali, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have Charles Edoswan, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have Adeni Yakinchola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have Afolabi Fashanu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have Hakim Afolabi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have Aliu Sarki, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. But above all, the Chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum, His Excellency the Governor of Kwara State. I can see him seated there, so we recognize you especially. Our colleagues will do well to get back to their seats so we can continue with the serious business of screening these nominees for appointment to serve humanity and rescue the federal government of Nigeria. Mr. Nominee, welcome to the Nigerian Senate. We have your resume before us. Give us just a summarized version of this resume. And if there's anything you think you want to add that is not contained therein, you can do so. The floor is yours.
The Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the Leader of the Senate, the Chief Whip, Deputy Chief Whip, distinguished Senator Lola Ashiru, that's the senator from my constituency, distinguished Senator and my friend, Mustafa Lituraki of Ilorin. The Senate President, I have no intention of personalizing the proceedings here, but please permit me to also say that to greet Senator Buhari, they are from Oyo because I came from Oyo from practice there, Senator Yunus, and my very good friend, Senator Sarafa Ali. That said, I will just veer off and say Senator Adigmamiri because he's a senior advocate of Nigeria. My name is Lateef Olasunkanmi Fagbemi. I was born third into a family of 5 at number 38, Lagos Street, Ebutemeta, Lagos, on the 16th day of July, 1959. Around 1962, I was taken to Ghana but returned in 1965 to start what we call kindergarten, but eventually started my primary school in 1966 at Ansarudin Primary School, Ilorin. I was there until 1972. In 1973, between 1973 and 1978, I attended both Offa Grammar School and Offa Grammar School, Offa, and Oyo Baptist High School, Ijagbo, for my secondary education. I then moved to Kwara State College of Technology, School of Basic Studies, to do my higher education certificate under the supervision of University of Cambridge. I finished from there and went to University of Jos between 1981 and 1984. I then got to the Nigerian Law School in 1985. I became a lawyer in August 1985 and did my youth service in Ibadan in 1985. That is between 1985 and 1986. I then went back to University of Ife, as it then was, for my master's degree. Since then, I've been in active legal practice. I trained under that world-renowned jurist turned educationist, Chief Afe Babalola. Like I said, since then, I've been in active legal practice. The Senate President, this is the short resume of the candidate standing before you. Much obliged.
Well, I can see so many hands up. So let's keep the hands down. And then we'll give a lot of people the opportunity to ask questions. Because if you meet him in court, he will do the same to you. He will ask you questions. And let's get somebody from his state first who may come up with accolade, because I suspect that. So unless the person has a question to ask, before we go into the real business of asking questions. Distinguished Senator Saliu Mustafa, Kwara State, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, the Senate President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Saliu Mustafa, representing Kwara Central. Before you here, you have an accomplished lawyer who needs no further introduction, and that is why you saw so many hands are up. I'm sure they've indicated interest to also shower him with a lot of accolades. I'm sure not questions. He is a lawyer who has paid his dues in the industry he chose. He was a lawyer at 26, became a senior advocate of Nigeria at 37. And from his brief explanation now, or intro, he told us he served under the renowned Afe Babalola, turned educationist now. I have closely studied the senior advocate of Nigeria, Lateef Fagbemi, to be one of the few senior advocates of Nigeria who take pride in whatever he does. He is a very humble person by nature. He takes his time. He listens very well, and he will give you the necessary advice and guide, even when you don't consult him for legal engagement. He is one of the few lawyers who I believe sometimes will do what other lawyers will not do. Give you a free of charge consultation. Pro bono. I am really proud and elated that he's from Kwara State. He is one of the leading lights in the legal industry in the country. And I know if confirmed by this Senate, he will not only do this Senate proud, but the country and the president for nominating or appointing him as a minister. So I would wish that he will maybe help the Senate in one or two areas, especially in enlightening or broadening our minds in certain issues that might have been reoccurring decimals when it comes to legal explanation of maybe jurisdictions of certain areas. I'm proud to have him as a nominee from Kwara State. Like I said, I know he will do the country a very great deal of experience. I mean, he will give the country a very great deal of experience in his chosen profession. And I'm sure when we encounter him next time, we will be encountering a minister of justice who will always work with the Senate if confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But distinguished Senator Mustafa is more or less confirming that the Kwara caucus has no objection to this nominee. And so I think that was important for me. But maybe since there is another very ranked senator from Kwara, Senator Sadiq, you may wish to add something before your governor penalizes you that you said nothing.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. I am Sadiq Sulaiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North who are. Mr. President, we are very proud of the nominee. And as my colleague said, as you see him standing there, if you look, you might not see a giant. But when you look at, when you can get into his head, his mind, he is a giant. Mr. President, well, the nominee is someone that is well known, and his values are that of humility, discipline, commitment, and empathy. And this is what we need to be able to achieve the renewed hope government that we are trying to establish. Mr. President, I would have said that this legal luminary should take a bow and go, but you know, it's a product we are so proud of. We are happy that he's asked questions. And in fact, I will encourage my colleagues to do that by also asking a very simple question. Mr. Nominee, congratulations. The simple question I have for you is the usual thing that goes on in this country, where most people seem to have this misconception of government, or the three arms of government. The truth is that there is one single federal government in Nigeria, headed by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. The three arms are separated for just checks and balances. But they must work collaboratively, respectively, and synergize to be able to deliver the key objectives of what the government needs to deliver to the people. My question is, how would you relate with the National Assembly to ensure that this synergy is maintained respectfully without compromising the separation of powers? Thank you.
This distinguished senator, I just want to, I'm moving from his place of birth. I may not touch Ghana, but I will touch Oyo. Distinguished Senator Sharafadin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I remain Sharafadin Abiodun Ali. I represent the group people of Oyo South Senatorial District. I can say that the nominee before us today resides in my senatorial district and has been attested to him by himself. He recognized the three of us who are from Oyo State. He is somebody I've known for over 35 years. And the distinguished colleagues, for this caliber of people to accompany our nominee here shows the kind of person, the giant, as said by the distinguished senator, that he is. He is a person who I sincerely believe is going to add value to the efforts of Mr. President in his renewed hope agenda. I know that he can answer our questions. Not only answer the questions, but answer them intelligently. But I do not believe in belligerent issues because he is the first nominee here that will be accompanied here by no less than 7 senior advocates and a state governor. I plead with his colleagues that the nominee, after stating his resume, be asked to take a leave of the Senate. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes. Why not? Why not? Yes.
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Yisha Ashiru Oyorola,
Mr. Senate President, Senator Ashiru Oyorola, these are all put together. The nominee for today, I will want to start by expressing our gratitude to Mr. President for deeming it fit to nominate him as a Minister of Federal Republic of Nigeria. I don't want to overemphasize what has been said about him. I will go a little bit micro. And what I mean by that, I don't want to talk too much about his legal prowess because it's well known to all of us. He has consulted in so many states of federation, more than 15 or 18 by the last count. And he has provided legal services to so many parastatals, agencies, and corporate bodies. So in terms of law, his competence is definitely not in doubt. But I want to talk about the person I know. He doesn't want to be called a prince. But Mr. Lateef Fagbemi is not just a prince of Ijago, he's a prince of Ife. Of recent, he lost his father, who was the king of Ijago, at a very ripe age of almost 110 years. And I'm very sure he will live to surpass that age because of his demeanor. People die quickly out of anger. When you look at the nominee for today, you will never see any anger in him. He has a total control of himself. He has a total control of his environment. And he has been good to all of us. He has been good to all of us in our senatorial district. From what I know about him, he has invested more than 350 million in helping schools around our senatorial districts. He's a total family man, not just a micro family. The whole town is Lateef Fagbemi's family. But I would not want to end by not asking a question, because there are so many things that are germane in the office is going to occupy. One, Lateef Fagbemi is not a politician. In fact, in most cases, he wants to draw a distance from partisan politics. But I want to say, Mr. Senate President, I want to advise the nominee that the new position he's taking today as an index of politics. There will be interaction with the Senate. There will be supervision from Senate committee here. You must be able to enlarge your mind and be able to take them in. The essence of it is that we are all working to make Nigeria a better place. Mr. President, the other area we want to touch is area a little bit outside law, at the same time, still related to law. There are a lot of conflict, communal conflict, everywhere in Nigeria, especially on land matter. And particularly, it's so common within the Eastern Bloc, the Southern Nigeria, and Central Nigeria. I will want to mention a little bit. There were issues of Ife Modakeke, there are issues of Sarah Gil Sare in our own domain, and there are issues of Ilu Obu and Ifan, even in town belonging to Chief of Army Staff. And equally, I want to mention too that in my own locality, the issue of Anerele. I want to ask you, how do we get a settlement without going to court or without brother and brother going to war? Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to take my seat.
Thank you, Mr. President, and very distinguished senators. Mr. President, I earlier raised a point of order 12, to enable us to suspend rules to admit strangers into the Senate. At this point, Mr. President, my point of order is order 12.1I. Order 12.1I. It's actually an invocation. I'm invoking this order to enable us admit. Thank you, sir. I have your permission to read, and I will read Order 12. Distinguished colleagues, Order 12, Sub 1, Roman figure I. Oh, sorry. Order 12, 1 says, no person shall be admitted to the lobby or the floor of the Senate while in session, except the following and only by consent of the Senate. Specifically, I refer to Order I, former speakers and former deputy speakers of the House of Representatives. Mr. President, I move that we invoke this order to admit the immediate past Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who currently is the Chief of Staff to the President and CNC, to deliver a very crucial correspondence from Mr. President. I so submit, I so move.
The Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, the Section 12 of our standing orders had already been invoked and is already in force, but specifically Section 12I that allows former speakers and former deputy speakers of the House of Representatives to approach the chambers while in session. So a motion to that effect has been moved and seconded by the Minority Leader. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The former speaker may now approach the chair.
Yes. Don't be taking us to the weekend.
Yes, Mr. Nominee, please resume. And we are through with the accolades. Can we now go into questions? The first question will come from the Chief Whip, after that Senator Abaribe, and then we move like that.
My name is Senator Mohamed Alindume, representing Borno South. Mr. Nominee, I have a very important personal question to you on the issue of Unexplained Wealth Act and the Unexplained Wealth Order. For the country to move forward, we all admit that we must fight corruption, and that is one of the main problems in this country. In fighting the corruption, the government put in place so many institutions, EFCC, ICPC, police, and all that. But you will agree with me as a lawyer that it has not been effective. The fundamental reason is because of the constitutional provision which states that an accused is assumed innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Here is the challenge. You have somebody that has unexplained wealth. You cannot prosecute him to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And I guess that is the wisdom why in even developed countries like UK, there is the Unexplained Wealth Order, which I believe as a senior advocate, you know. And you know that the fight against corruption in this country cannot get anywhere if the burden of proof is placed on the prosecutor. In those countries, there is the Unexplained Wealth Order or Unexplained Wealth Act. And its practice, I understand by my research, over 20 countries, including US and UK, whereby you are asked to explain where you got the money to buy what is not commensurate with their income. I hope that the Unexplained Wealth Act or Mr. President himself will issue an executive order on unexplained wealth. So my question, what is your position on that? As person that I know, religious, God-fearing, and also a patriot, and you are one of those that believes that corruption must be fought to a standstill in this country if we are to make progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as the chair, I am Ine Abaribe. I represent Abia South. Mr. Nominee, your name rings bells, and you have litigated very, I will say, landmark cases that has even made us change the law here. I'm referring to Amechi versus INEC. And you have been known specifically as an advocate of rule of law and a strong supporter of constitutional democracy. What would your option be, assuming we confirm you and the president appoints you to where we all think you should go as the chief law officer of the Federation? What will your option be if the government you serve desecrates the Constitution and does not obey court
orders. Thank you.
Off your mic. Is that a question? The question you are saying is if the government does what?
If the government does not obey court orders and the government desecrates the Constitution.
Well, I have a problem with the leading question. Are you trying to suggest that a government that believes so much in the rule of law will desecrate the Constitution? A government that swears to uphold the Constitution? So, because is there anybody that can help Senator Abaribe to frame this question in a more respectable manner? Because this is preemptive. The government is not even up to 2 months old, and speculative. And you are saying if the government, previous governments that you saw, is what you should be talking about, not this government. This government is a corrective regime. And the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is out to change Nigeria. And it's a government that believes in the rule of law. And you are saying if the government desecrates. So please, that language should not be allowed. Please, Senator Adero, I believe we can handle it better. Please reframe it for him.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting in the chair, distinguished colleagues, our respected nominee. Let me start by, first of all, congratulating you for being nominated to serve as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let me also start with the question asked by my distinguished colleague, my neighbor, Senator Abaribe. This government believes in the rule of law, and disobedience to court order will not be tolerated in any way, in any form. And if you find yourself to be assigned to the Ministry of Justice as Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of the Federation, would you tolerate a situation where court order is being disobeyed? Secondly, this is my own personal question. There is serious prison congestion arising from judges not being enough to deal with cases, particularly at the higher court. It is very common to see a person being detained in prison for over 4 years for an offense that shouldn't take more than 6 months, even if he's convicted. Our prisons all over Nigeria are like that. What would he do to decongest our prisons if you are appointed as Minister of Justice? Thirdly, there is a dilemma for removal of immunity, particularly for public officers like governors, deputy governors, president, and the vice president. We attempted removing it in the 9th Senate or in the 9th Assembly, but we couldn't succeed because we couldn't get enough support from the states. Would you subscribe to the view that immunity should be removed for public officers, particularly governors and president and vice president and deputy governors? Mr. President, I need your protection. I need your protection.
Distinguished colleagues, because of the number of hands, it will be good for us to restrict ourselves to one question, and so that others can have the opportunity to ask. And if there is any question you are not able to ask, please, the learned silk is available. Write it and pass it through the leader of the Senate. You will pass it to him, and we will still come back here to read it. Thank you, distinguished Senator Alero. Senator Alero, you enjoyed immunity for 8 years as a governor, and you did not complain about during your 8 years. You complained that you were enjoying immunity, and that when you were governor, the immunity should have been removed in order to allow your orderly to arrest you whenever there was a petition against you. Okay. Senator Nader, we'll come back to you. 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 Senator Nader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My learned colleagues, I'm Neda Imaswen, representing the good people of Edo South Senatorial District. Learned Silk, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. Looking through your resume, we attended law school the same year, 1985. I'm proud to have you here as one of us. My question, the office of the Attorney General and the office of the Minister for Justice is woven in one. And I believe that there is a conflict of interest in that office as it is. If, by the grace of God, you are confirmed the Minister for Justice, will you support that office to be splitted into two so we can have the Minister for Justice and the Attorney General for the Federation separated so that they can perform their functions separately? Because as it is, their functions seems to conflict with the interest of the President and that of the people. What is your position on this, Learned Silk? Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Dan Kwambu.
Your Excellency, the question I want to ask is similar to what he asked. I want to ask if it is right to separate the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Attorney General of the federal government, as is being initiated and is being asked all the time. Accountant General of the Federation, Accountant General of federal government, Attorney General of the Federation, Attorney General of the federal government. Is it right? Does it give the President enough powers to perform his role on the economy and the justice system? That's my submission, Your Excellency.
We should give the nominee the opportunity to be heard.
I am very grateful. I'm very grateful. Let me start from the question posed by distinguished Senator Sadiq Umar, and I start on a note of apology because I should have mentioned him as one of the senators from my state. Unfortunately, the impression I had was that he was not around. That said, let me talk about the question he raised. It's about the relationship between the National Assembly and the Office of the Attorney General. I don't see any difference between this question and the relationship amongst the three tiers of government. The government stands on a tripod: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And the French philosopher Montesquieu advocated the issue of separation of powers, rule of law, and others. But there is nowhere in the world where you have watertight separation of powers. It is the interest of the nation, the interest of the country that is paramount and will dictate how we relate, all for the good, betterment, and advancement of our nation. So, as Attorney General, if I find myself there, I cannot do without the National Assembly. I cannot do without the judiciary, but it has to be on certain defined parameters. That's one. Then my very good friend, Senator Sarafa Ali, I just want to thank you for the good things you said about me. Then my boss at home, and I say here, Senator Lola Ashiru, has asked that, well, because I'm not a politician, the Office of the Attorney General, with all respect, is supposed to maintain a modicum of independence. But that does not mean that you will not take into consideration the mood of the nation. So that is what is important, because it is the Constitution, it is the law that I am expected to guide and guard, again, all in the interest of the nation. About this issue of land dispute and all that, my answer is going to be a two-pronged approach. The first one is, it is either a dispute between one state and another, or between one local government and another. In fact, three. The third one is within the same local government, you can have dispute as to land. But I'm aware that we have boundary commission. Whether or not we'll achieve harmony in respect of land matters depends greatly, or a great deal, on our governors. Because very few instances of state clashes, interstate disputes arise. So it behoves the governor of a particular state to take the bull by the horn and not play politics with it. It's very important, because when election is coming, the issue is, oh, let me wait, otherwise I'm going to lose this election. So my advice is that it is the state governors that we turn to do the needful. At the local government, it is the local government chairman who should also take the bull by the horn. At the federal level, the president, the boundary commission, which is a body established or recognized by law, should swing into action. But my general advice is that it is better to nib these disputes in the bud as soon as you realize, or there is indication there's likely to be boundary dispute or communal dispute. I will advise the authorities to swing into action and not allow it to fester or get to such a magnitude that it will now be unmanageable. Now, in respect of the distinguished Senator Ndume on explained wealth, I want to discuss this under a broad head of corruption. It is only in Nigeria that we want to take omelette without breaking egg. It's not possible. But we must also realize that the whole purpose of the society, of the nation, of the country, of the group, any group, is to promote economic development. In fact, if you have an enabling environment for for investment, you have little problem dealing with unemployment. But there cannot be this will not work unless you have an enabling environment in respect of legal, the legislation. Truth be told, we fight corruption, but at the same time, the way it is being fought in Nigeria leaves much to be desired. That is the truth. If I have my way, I will advise the president to unbundle. First of all, bring ICPC and EFCC together, unbundle them. Investigation should not be handled by the same body. There must be a supervisory authority within the same system. If there is investigation, it is another body. Prosecution is another body. It doesn't augur well to ask the same authority to, okay, do investigation, come and do prosecution. That is where we have problems. Then we are also not, let me say, patient enough. You know, investigation takes time, especially in serious corruption cases. Are we prepared to wait? My take is that a situation should be created, such as the one that happened in when Hush Puppy was arrested. They had been trailing him for years. He didn't know, and nobody will talk to him. But the day they said the time was up, he also knew that the time was up. Investigation should be thorough. It shouldn't be that when a given governor leaves office, you now say, yes, let's go. EFCC is inviting you. That is not the way to prosecute criminal matters, corruption matters.